Today we're going to learn how to calculate the area of a trapezium. And hopefully you remember from last topic that a trapezium is a quadrilateral, so a four-sided shape that has only one pair of parallel sides. And the parallel sides on this figure below are the 6 centimeters and the 10 centimeters. Now, let's figure out the formula for the area of a trapezium. The first thing I'm going to do to help us through this is draw a rectangle on top of our trapezium. And you might notice we've got these little bits that overhang. It turns out that those bits fit exactly into these bits up here. And that's going to help us in figuring out a useful formula. So I've got this figure here, and it turns out that the width of that rectangle that we drew over the top of our trapezium, that is actually the same as the height of the trapezium. So this height here is the same as the height of our trapezium, which is 4 centimeters. And it also turns out that the length of our rectangle, which isn't that 10 centimeters, but it's in fact this in here, is the same as the bottom and top of the trapezium added together and then halved. So the top of the trapezium is 6 plus 10 divided by 2 gives me 8 centimeters. And we were expecting 8 centimeters because on our last slide, we had these little bits here labeled as 1 centimeter. So if I have 10 centimeters and I take away 1 and then another 1, I'm left with 8. Okay, I think we're almost at the point where we can think about a formula. So because I know something about the width and the length of my rectangle and how they relate to the trapezium, I can say that the area of the trapezium is half the sum of the parallel sides, which is this bit over here when I add those two parallel sides together and divide by 2, and then multiplied by the gap between them, which is the height of the trapezium. Now over here I've labelled, so we can create a nice formula, the top bit or the top line of the trapezium as A, the bottom as B, and then the height as H. And this means that the area of our trapezium is half times A plus B and then multiplied by our H. So this formula here, and there'll be some slides below this video, so don't worry too much about writing this down now, but that's a very important formula to have in your notes book. Now we're going to go through some examples. So we're going to find the area of this trapezium shown here. And I've got this little diagram with my A, B, and H, and my formula beside that ready to go, and that's going to help us to find the area. Now I can see that my A value is 4.2, my B value is 8.8, and my H value is 6. So A, B, H. Next, what I'm going to do is substitute those into this formula here. So my area is going to be equal to half times 4.2 plus 8.8 times 6. Next, what you can do is pop that into your calculator, remembering to include these brackets. And what your calculator should give you, and you can pause the video if you'd like to make sure you're putting it in correctly, your area is 39. But we can't stop there. We've got to remember to include the correct units. So up here we were dealing in centimeters, and because it's area, it's centimeters squared. Before I start, because it is a worded problem. An instant turf company has been asked to complete a quote for the following area. If turf costs $32 per square metre including installation, then how much to the nearest 5 cents should the company quote for the job? Okay, so I know that this, when they say following area, that's referring to this bit over here. I also know that the turf costs $32 per square metre. My answer is going to have to be rounded to the nearest 5 cents. And I'm trying to figure out how much should the company quote for the job. Now, the first thing I think about is I know how much I have to quote them per square metre, but I don't know how many square metres of turf that they need. So step 1 is going to be find the area of that shape. Find the area. And I'm going to get up my little formula and diagram there to help me. And I can see that A is going to be 5 metres. B is going to be 8. And my H is going to be 4. Next, I'm going to substitute those values into the formula. And what my calculator gives me is 26 meters squared. Now I know how much I have to charge them for. So what I'm going to do is multiply the area by the cost. Okay, so we've got 26 meters squared, and I know I have to quote them $32 per square meter. And my calculator gives me $832 exactly. Now, to state my answer, I'm going to write it as a sentence. So I'm going to recommend that the company quote $832 for the job. Before you start your textbook questions, what I need you to do is go below this video, and there will be 3 slides there. Please make sure you've got all of the information that are on those 3 slides written down. If you've been taking notes during this video, you might already have the information down. If you've just been watching the video, that's perfectly fine too. But please make sure you copy down the 2 worked examples as well as the formula and the diagrams into your notebook.